From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I am Ahmed Ramadan. U.S. President Donald Trump urged Israel to seize what he called a golden age of peace as he addressed the Israeli parliament or Knesset on Monday. His speech came days after a ceasefire took effect under his 20-point plan to end the two-year genocide in Gaza. Trump acknowledged Israel's growing isolation and said he had urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop fighting the world and accept peace. He framed the deal as a step to expand the Abraham Accords and strengthen ties with Arab and Muslim-majority nations. He told Israeli lawmakers it is the time to turn military victories into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity. He praised Arab and Muslim leaders who came together to press Hamas to set the prisoners free. Notably, Trump made no mention of the thousands of Palestinians still held by Israel, many without charge or trial. Reports from multiple outlets, including Al Jazeera and Anadolu Agency, say Israeli forces have continued attacks across Gaza since the ceasefire took effect, killing at least 9 people, including journalists Saleh al-Jafarawi, and wounding dozens more in strikes on Gaza City and Khan Yunis. A Palestinian-Origin scientist has been awarded the 2025 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Omar was born to a refugee family in Jordan. He is one of 3 winners alongside Japan's Susumu Kitagawa and Australia's Richard Robson. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences announced the award in Stockholm last week. It recognizes their development of metal organic frameworks, the materials that can capture carbon, store gases, and extract water from dry air. Yaghi, now a professor at the University of California, Berkeley, pioneered reticular chemistry, which links molecular building blocks to create highly porous materials with atomic precision. He said his lifelong goal is to capture air and turn its components into useful resources using renewable energy. 2 Israeli opposition lawmakers, Ayman Odeh and Ofer Kassif, were removed from the Knesset after interrupting U.S. President Donald Trump's address. They held up signs reading, "Recognize Palestine." Odeh, who leads the Arab Jewish Hadash party, said he was expelled for voicing a demand the entire international community agrees on, the recognition of a Palestinian state. He later posted on X, accusing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government of crimes against humanity in Gaza and called for peace based on equality and justice. Odeh, who is 50, was born in a Muslim family but now lists himself as an atheist. 60-year-old Kassif, also from Hadash party, is Jewish. He said they were not trying to disrupt the speech but to demand true peace through an end to occupation and apartheid. In his post in Hebrew, he urged Israelis to refuse to be occupiers and resist a government of bloodshed. The 2 lawmakers belong to the Joint List, a left-wing opposition bloc critical of Netanyahu's policies. Palestine resistance Hamas and Israel exchanged prisoners Monday after U.S. President Donald Trump declared the Gaza genocide over. At 8 a.m. local time, Hamas handed 20 living prisoners to the International Red Cross, which later transferred them to Israel. In return, Israeli authorities released 1,968 Palestinian prisoners under the first phase of the ceasefire deal. Most were sent to Gaza, while some went to the West Bank. According to rights group Adamir, nearly 10,000 Palestinians are held in Israeli jails, with many children, women, and detainees held without charge. Israel has deported 154 Palestinian prisoners released under the Gaza ceasefire exchange to Egypt. Pakistan's military says it has killed more than 200 Afghan fighters in fierce cross-border clashes. Afghanistan's Taliban government claims it killed 58 Pakistani soldiers. The fighting erupted Saturday along the frontier as both sides exchanged artillery and heavy gunfire. It followed Taliban accusations that Pakistani jets violated Afghan airspace and bombed a market in Paktika province Thursday night. Islamabad has not confirmed or denied the airstrikes, but says it will defend its citizens amid a surge in attacks by the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP. Afghanistan's defense ministry said its forces launched successful retaliatory operations against Pakistani outposts along the border called Durand Line. security sources told Anadolu heavy firing continued in border provinces including Khost, Nangarhar, and Kunar over the weekend. Taliban Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi, who was in India, said the situation is now under control as allies Qatar and Saudi Arabia stepped in to defuse tensions. Islamic finance has turned 50, with global assets reaching nearly $6 trillion. The milestone marks 5 decades since the world's first Islamic commercial bank opened in 1975. According to a new Islamic Development Bank and London Stock Exchange Group report, the sector grew 21% in the past year, expanding across 140 countries. Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Malaysia lead the industry, which now includes Islamic banking, sukuk bonds, takaful, insurance, and Sharia-compliant funds. The report says growth is driven by strong ethical appeal, sustainable finance initiatives, and expanding markets in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Europe. A prominent Uyghur scholar and activist, Dilnur Rayhan, is facing trial in France. Details coming up after the break. Welcome back. A prominent Uyghur scholar and activist, Dilnur Rayhan, is facing trial in France for what she says is a political attempt to silence her criticism of Beijing. Rayhan, who heads the European Uyghur Institute, is charged with degradation of property after allegedly throwing red paint on a Chinese embassy banner during a 2022 protest in Paris. 3 Chinese embassy employees filed a complaint claiming damages of €25. Rayhan says the case aims to intimidate Uyghur activists abroad. India is facing serious accusations of forcibly deporting Muslims, including its own citizens. Human Rights Watch says more than 1,500 people were expelled to Bangladesh and Myanmar between May and mid-June, often without legal process. According to NPR, the crackdown has intensified, and most of those targeted are poor Bengali-speaking Muslims living in cities of Mumbai and Delhi. Rights groups and activists accuse Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government of using deportations and demolitions to stoke anti-Muslim sentiment ahead of provincial elections. India's Home Ministry has not responded to media inquiries, NPR reports. Health experts are horrified after the Trump administration abruptly fired more than 1,000 public health officials from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. They warn the decision will leave America dangerously unprepared to handle future outbreaks or health emergencies. The mass firings came late Friday night with little notice or explanation. According to the New York Times, the layoffs wiped out entire CDC departments dealing with respiratory and chronic diseases, injury prevention, and global health programs. Several Chicago pastors have joined growing protests outside the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, detention facility in Broadview, Illinois. They accuse federal authorities of cruelty and denial of compassion towards detainees. Father Larry Dowling of St. Agatha Catholic Church said ICE officials barred him from giving communion to detainees. He said the ICE officials told him he could not bring compassion and prayer into their place. He called the refusal outrageous. Reverend Quincy Worthington told NPR that protesters had been peaceful, blaming ICE for escalating violence. Reverend David Black of the First Presbyterian Church filed a lawsuit alleging that ICE officers shot him with chemical pellets during prayer. Viral videos shows Black hit in the head as officers laughed. Church leaders say they will continue to demand humane treatment and accountability at ICE facilities nationwide. Computer scientist Stephen Thaler has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to rule whether creative works made entirely by artificial intelligence can receive copyright protection. He is challenging a 2025 appeals court decision that reaffirmed copyright applies only to works created by humans. Toller's petition argues that the human authorship rule is not written in the Copyright Act and leaves AI-generated innovations unprotected. The case began when he tried to copyright an artwork titled A Recent Entrance to Paradise, created by his AI system, the Creativity Machine. Both a district court and the Washington Circuit Court of Appeals rejected his claim, saying copyright law requires human authorship. The Supreme Court has never ruled on this issue before. Representative Ilhan Omar has endorsed State Senator Omar Fateh in the Minneapolis mayoral race. She called him a champion for working people and said the city needs bold leadership to tackle housing safety and affordability issues. Omar's endorsement follows months of tension after she criticized the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party for revoking its earlier backing of Fateh, a Democratic socialist. Omar praised his push for higher minimum wages and rent stabilization, saying he's ready to fight for true justice and equity. The crowded race features 15 candidates. Health experts say a smarter Mediterranean diet could be one of the most effective ways to prevent type 2 diabetes. A landmark Spanish study led by the University of Navarra found that a calorie-reduced Mediterranean diet combined with regular exercise lowered diabetes risk by 31%. The 6-year clinical trial followed nearly 4,800 overweight adults aged 55 to 75. Those who cut about 600 calories a day, walked briskly, and did light strength training lost an average of 3.3 kilograms. They also trimmed 3.6 centimeters from their waistlines, far more than the control group. Researchers say the approach offers a practical and low-cost way to fight rising rates of diabetes and obesity worldwide. The findings, published in the Annals of International Medicine, show that small, steady lifestyle changes, less food, more movement, and community support can make a powerful difference in preventing chronic disease. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.